You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 54 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. With me as always, Jessica Salaji.
Hello.
Special guest host, Matt Lowe.
Yo.
Jessica, how was your week?
The week has been legislative. It's been regulated. It's been overreached. Everything is terrible.
You're going to have to, you're going to hit, a point where you're going to have to either just blow up, hit critical mass, or stop caring.
There's a point every session where I'm just like, why am I doing this? No one cares. Nothing's ever going to change. This is dumb.
I remember that last year.
Yes, it happens every session because it is exhausting and not exhausting like workload. No, that's a lot. But you're just like, why are there 180 people trying to ruin our lives on one side of the hall and 56 on the other side? It's terrible. It's insane.
You know, when I read you, I have this vision of you beat red in the face, a laptop on either hand, typing two different stories at the same time, as if you were Thomas Jefferson writing in two different languages.
Sure. If Thomas Jefferson cussed a lot.
You know what, though? I know you're making a joke there, but I will say that, I've witnessed Jessica's ability to multitask in a simultaneous manner, and it is, it's something to see.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure if it's good for my sanity, but it's good for business.
I'm going to withhold, inappropriate comments there. You just keep whatever you're doing. I got a story to get out. Matt, how was your 2 weeks?
Man, we've had, personally, there's just been a lot going on. But it's been all right, I guess. Busy at work.
Well, idle hands and all.
Right. This whole Boy Scoutmaster thing has been a lot more demanding of my time than I thought it would be. I mean, I'm not going to back out or anything, but I'm still trying to get a handle on that too. So.
Well, they do sucker you with the volunteer things.
Right.
Well, Matt and I were having a drink at Governor's Gun Club last week. And the bartender, Brittany's a listener. So I walked in and she hadn't seen me in a while. And I said, well, it's your lucky day. Matt Lowe is going to meet me up here. So as soon as he walks in, she asks for his autograph.
Is it worth anything?
It might be one day.
Well, I saw you slip her a bar napkin.
Right, with
scribble on it. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, Brittany's great. I mean, she really is. I don't know if she's worth half your stuff and all your kids.
Right.
Sorry, Brittany.
Right now she's going, ew, old guys.
Yeah, old people. Ew. Well, hopping right in because we've got a lot of stuff to cover. Distracted driving movement takes hold in Florida, and this is a step above the no text and drive. It would ban a lot of things, including interacting with your pets.
Boo.
And Matt, as somebody who drives dogs around as a way of, commerce.
Making money.
Yeah. Some side money.
Your side hustle.
Right.
Is it important to interact with those animals?
I I mean,
What
look,
kind of question is that?
they're puppies. I put them in a plastic tote, put the lid on it, throw them in the back seat, and go.
What kind of question was
Worst
that?
show ever.
What kind of answer is that? 'Cause I'm pretty sure Peter's pissed right now.
I'm kidding about the lid. I did try to do that. My wife was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "It'll keep them in it." She's like, "But they'll die." I'm like, "It's not airtight. It's fine." I lost that, so they just ran around inside their little plastic tote in the back seat.
Jessica, would this prohibit you from telling your dogs to give you some space and you need some privacy while driving?
Government doesn't prohibit me from doing anything.
Damn it.
No, this is so silly though. Like I would, if my dogs were, like my dogs are older, so I don't keep them in a kennel anymore. Stella sometimes will ride in a crate if she's acting up. But Shady will sit in the middle seat. If I want to reach over and pet her, I'm going to do it. Like, what's the difference between that and a couple holding hands?
You know, you're right. I understand. I understand the intent. They don't want the dog in your lap or the dog in your face or whatever, but the way it's written is interact with an animal in the car, with your pet in the car. Of course, this being Florida, it could be an alligator, it could be a snake, it could be, flamingo. But a reassuring pet on a dog's head that is nervous because she's going to the vet or whatever, I can't see how that distracts me from driving.
Well, I'll also say this, like, I'm against cell phone bans and those types of things. However, those types of laws make a million more times sense than a generalized distracted driving law. We've talked about this before. Like, I have a friend down here who received a distracted driving ticket before the new law went into effect, and she was cited for eating an egg roll while driving. She had one hand on the wheel and one hand on the egg roll. And they cited her, and she's fighting it. She fought in court for like a year trying to get it resolved. But these distracted driving laws are so much more broad. It means anything where you, like, if you don't have your hands at 10 and 2, you can pretty much be pulled over, which just leads to so many more police interactions, which is not what we want as a society. Well, and this is kind of getting off on a tangent, but talking about the features and everything, like my car has that lane correct that I don't know how to turn off. And if in South Georgia, like, I don't use my blinker because there's no cars around. So if I don't use my blinker, my car hard corrects back into my lane. That's not as dangerous. I mean, that's more dangerous than petting a dog or putting on chapstick.
Right. And look, this law would add 3 points to your license.
Which seems excessive.
Well, now we find out it's about money.
What?
For the first offense, in lieu of the penalty specified in the assessment of points, a person who violates this section may elect to participate in a distracted driving safety program approved by the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles.
This is like the equivalent of MAD, but for distracted driving.
No, this is because MAD is working and they're losing money on DUIs and they have to raise money elsewhere.
Right.
Because guess who's administering that class? The same classes that they're giving the DUI classes.
Right.
And this is and Matt, correct me if the proper way of saying it is a primary reason to pull you over.
Right. It's a probable cause.
Right. This isn't like seatbelts used to be here. While we have you pulled over, you don't have your seatbelt on. While you were speeding, this is, if they think you're petting an animal, they can pull you over and find out that, I don't know, you had a pillow that fell in the floorboard and you picked up and put back up, or whatever.
That's covered. That's covered though. Unsecured cargo.
That's true. Unsecured cargo. Now, where's the language that I found particularly offensive?
Engaging in any other activity, action.
That's it. So I guess there's no reason to get a pickup truck with a bench seat in Florida. Any other activity. Any other
activity. Like I said, if your hands aren't at 10 and 2, they can pull you over.
Right? That's a wide ass open. Like, he was driving distracted.
For it to stand up in court, too. Not just for the ticket, but that allows it to...
Right.
Well, you spoke to probable cause. Well, I guess the libertarian side of me says, well, if you're going to use this as a reason to initiate contact with law enforcement, they don't need proof. All they have to say is, I thought he was distracted. Apparently I was wrong, but we found reason to search him afterwards. I mean, this gives carte blanche to pull you over for anything, unless, like Jessica said, you're at 10 and 2 staring straight ahead. And even if you are, I mean, that you can't prove a negative. Hey, it looks like he was staring in the floorboard at an animal, so I pulled him over.
Boo, veto.
Right. I'm sure Georgia will come back and revisit theirs and change.
They already are this year.
Good God, really?
They're already doing something. I don't even really understand it because it's so specific. I haven't really given it a whole lot of looks, but it has to do with those who have provisional driver's license under the age of 18, which if you're a new driver, like I'll let them limit you because it's only 2 years, whatever, you're not an adult. But it's the principle of the thing, and it's the same guy who did the last one, John Carson, and he has said, and his backer has said, we're not stopping until basically you're at Florida. So I don't think it will happen this year, but probably next year, because that would make a good campaign year mailer.
Well, that's one of the reasons that kids don't get the driver's license anymore. And
Why?
Because it's no fun. They've sucked the fun out of getting your license.
Right. I've got an 18-year-old that still doesn't have his driver's license because he didn't need it yet.
Well, yeah, and I've had guys work for me that had their mom drop them off for work. And I don't hire kids. Well, they're kids to me, but I don't hire minors because of what we do. You're a grown-ass man. You need to have a driver's license to be able to get yourself to and from work. Like, I got my driver's license, and that was the last, good thing I ever did as a kid. After that, I was a little bastard. Right. I was gone with my friends, cutting class, and doing all the fun stuff. But
it's terrible. I mean,
it is. Yeah, and back on that law is like you said, it's terrible. It is so wide sweeping that it covers just about anything that they want to say is distracting. When the Germans first started to sell cars here, they said you need cup holders. And like, well, why do you need cup holders? You're driving. And that's what's coming back around
so I can put my phone in it. Gosh, leave me alone.
Right.
God.
That is where I keep my phone.
Me too.
The cup holder. If I don't, it flies all over the place while I'm trying to talk on it. And if I stick it in the cup holder, I can swipe and do things with it.
The new ones are coming with phone holders.
Where? On the center console?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. You know what? My buddy just bought a new Z71. And in the center console, it had a phone holder that's also a wireless charger. So it charges as it lays there.
Yep.
I've heard of this.
The Dodge I have's got a place to put 2 or 3. It then on the top has a place to lay your phone sideways if you're using it for navigation, I guess. Although it'll talk to the navigation by itself. But the new vehicles are making up for that with stuff holding your phone in place.
Kids these days, they have all the technology.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, it's the interacting with a pet. Plus the cargo thing is, if you've got a fish tank and you hit the brakes too hard and you put your hand over to hold the fish tank from flying forward.
Right.
Which is a story I heard from somebody not long ago about her fish tank flying out and she ended up hitting a mailbox.
I don't really feel bad for her. I just don't.
All right.
I mean, you kind of assume a risk when you're traveling with a fish tank.
With a fish tank. When you're going out of town on vacation, you need to take the fish to somebody's house to be watched. Like, you throw that fish out, when you get back, you get another fish and say you just came back from the kennel.
Right.
All right, trying to move quickly. You know, we're missing some notes on here, but federal court rules male-only draft unconstitutional. The case was brought by the Coalition for Men and Men's Right group, long opposed the male-only draft registration. Matt, what did you have to say about this?
Good. Equal rights, bitches.
Yeah, I think it's so funny for that exact reason. Like, I've never been one. I don't think men and women. I think men and women are equal under the law, but I don't think they're the exact same. Like, they're not identical. They're not capable of all the same things. And women have long held that is actually, like, feminists think that that's not the case, and that women should do everything that men should. And so here you go, have at it.
Right.
Draft your ass up. I would die, by the way. I would die. Like, I would, no. Just go ahead and dig me a grave.
Well, you're outside the age to be drafted now anyway.
I know, I'm so old. Not as old as y'all. Since you brought up my age, you jerk.
And you'll be 31 in a few months, won't you?
Mm-hmm.
I got my first birthday card today. It came from the county tax commissioner, of course. No, look. I was generally opposed to the women in combat stuff. It is not because I oppose access to those jobs or the promotion points or anything else. Is at fighting strength, I was, still 6'1". And my fighting weight was between 225 and 250 pounds. Now, most of the guys I served with, if needed, could take me and throw me over their shoulder and drag me out of the way of danger. And that would be hard for someone who doesn't have male strength, who doesn't have broad shoulders, testosterone, and everything else that makes men physically stronger. It would be very difficult for them to do.
Right, and this is, I don't know, the thing that always gets me is, like, there will be some woman who is capable of that. She'll be the one, like, I can do it. It's like, well, fine, you're the exception. There's 100,000 other non-beasts that can't, so.
It's kind of related, but not identical, but this kind of plays into the whole conversation about how, like, feminists, again, support, like, transgender people in women's activities, and now men who have transitioned to become women are, like, beating them out of their own sports and pageants and things.
No, I was thinking the exact same thing, and I was thinking about that MMA fighter who's a dude. He went through puberty as a dude. He has muscle tone as a dude. I refuse to call him a her. And his gig is he gets in the octagon and beats up women. Like, if you change the octagon into a trailer, you don't want to haul him off to jail.
Right. It's a messed up. The whole thing is messed up. Right.
So there are, like you said, there are physical differences, and it's not just men and women are equal. It's differently abled. If somebody's in a wheelchair, we're equal, but he doesn't have a jump shot.
My thing is what rights do you have that I don't have? Because you don't have a right to be drafted, so I'm not missing out on a right because you're getting drafted. Like, what do you possess that I don't?
A penis.
That's not a right. That's a
no. The question you asked was, "What did I?"
Right, but my first question.
I know.
Focus, Lo. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have any rights that I don't have. So we are at equality. We are there.
We have equal protection. the Constitution doesn't provide that everything is equal across the board. We have equal protection under the law. But I know what you're about to say, Matt. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do not have the right, and let me preface this with, I don't want to kick up this debate.
I don't want to go here.
But I don't have that right.
Well, you better say it, because I don't know what we're talking about.
I do not have the right to choose. And a female does.
That's a bigger subject for another show.
Right, which is why I said I didn't want to, but that is an answer to that question.
I thought you were going with the equal protection of the law, that you and I could have our citizenship handcuffed by not registering with Selective Service, but a woman does not. So,
right. Well, there's that too.
So under the Equal Protection Clause, I guess that is something, and the group's right. As far as that goes.
But I'm talking about from the angle of, like, I understand what Matt's saying, and I understand like,
you're talking about, like, in the classical sense of
rights,
like the
women's
Bill of
rights,
Rights and
women's
what's
rights.
there.
Yeah, this conversation that women need rights, women don't have rights. What rights are we missing?
Right.
I can't think of any.
You're exactly right. Yeah, there's nothing that Matt and I have legally that you don't.
Right. The
argument, and again, the constitutional rights don't apply within the military. You don't have a First Amendment right completely under when you serve in the military. You don't have a Second Amendment right. They can come and search you anytime they want to. You don't have a Fourth Amendment right. So you fall under the UCMJ once you sign that contract. But the argument with a lot of females was the combat arms promote so much faster. You make points so much faster in combat arms and points towards promotion. We're disadvantaged being in administrative roles and and our promotions come slower, which means our pay does not increase as fast as those in combat arms. But no one chains you and throws you. You're not a conscript. We haven't had a draft since the early 70s. You sign up to go into the Army, Navy, or Air Force. Right. If you don't want to go in knowing that these are my career paths that I can do, then don't. Okay, we've hammered that, and we're moving on because we've got a lot of content, and we could belinger it a long time. But Jessica did the outline and gave us time limits.
And we've blown it by 6 minutes.
We have, but she didn't account for us talking about the bartender at Governor's.
Right.
House Bill 228 by Andy Welch.
Boo!
Teen marriage legislation.
God.
Well, the framing on this is moves the age of marriage from 16 to 17. Prohibits a 17-year-old from marrying someone more than 4 years his or her senior. Because if it was their junior, it'd be pretty creepy.
And then it requires premarital education about conflict management, communication skills, financial responsibility, which is ironic coming from the government, child and parenting responsibilities, and extended family roles. Now, just to preface, Andy Welch is a human trafficking legislator. He, Chuck Efstration, and are the Renee Onderman counterparts in the House. Andy's from Henry County, Chuck Efstration's from Gwinnett. They love this kind of stuff. And so every single time they do something like this, the answer is, we've got to do this to crack down on the exploitation of women and children. That is their answer to everything. So, go.
Won't somebody please think about the children?
That education that I mentioned, this is important because it has to be completed 12 months before they apply for the license. So if you're 17 and you get knocked up, you've got to do the education and then wait a year.
Complete the education.
Right. With a psychologist or a social worker or a psychiatrist or a person of the clergy. Yes.
I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out why. Like, there's always, for things like this, there's always a catalyst. Does Andy Welch have a 16-year-old daughter?
So the argument is that between 2000 and 2015, which this isn't an argument, I guess, because it did happen, but between 2000 and 2015, something like 10,000 16-year-olds got married in the state of Georgia. Now, those people either had to have their parental consent to do it, or they had to be emancipated and then get married. So we're not talking about, like they're saying that it's child brides and being sold and all of that. First of all, those people are going to be sold and exploited no matter what the law is. But second, you're telling me that 10,000, or let's just say half were signed off by their parents and half were emancipated. You're telling me that 5,000 parents sold their son or daughter?
Right.
Give me a break.
Of course not. And
this isn't India.
Well,
right.
There's some stuff with what they're pointing their finger at is the immigrant community. And of course, a sweet 16 or a quinceañera is traditionally something of showing off now your daughter being eligible for marriage to marry her off. Among the many problems I have with this, the freedom problems, I have practical problems with it. And Jessica, you touched on it with the getting pregnant at 17. Mm-hmm. Complete this course. 12 months later, you can apply for your license. Now, let's just say 18-year-old knocks up his 17-year-old girlfriend. He goes and he's trying to do the right thing. He's like, you know what, let's get married. I love you. Let's raise our babies. Well, how am I going to provide for them? Well, let me go join the army. At this point, he still can't marry his sweetheart, which means he is deprived of not only the opportunity to cohabitate with her, but his housing allowance. The baby and mother will be deprived of his health insurance, TRICARE. Mm-hmm. The money that they would receive as a family through military pay for being married and having dependents. They would also be deprived of the opportunity to have her travel with him to his duty station. And then get married, 18-year-olds, enlisted person's housing.
But you're also, you bring up great points, but those are also the facts if you're not in the military and you're applying for certain benefits and things like that. And it's the exact reason that liberals can say, well, you guys are pro-life, but what do you do when, I understand this is not all about teen pregnancy and we are making it about teen pregnancy in this instance, but liberals attack Republicans for being pro-life and then not offering any resources. Well, why are you making it harder to get those resources that are already available, which we all probably don't agree with, but on this show at least, but why are you making those things harder to obtain in the name of children and women? That makes no sense.
And this is going to be sound harsher than I mean it. In that case, and again, I know we're getting stuck on the pregnancy thing, you're forcing a child to be born a bastard.
Yes, because government said so.
Right. There is no legal means as a 17-year-old can give birth to a legitimate child. Now, let me preface this with, if you're 17 years old and you decide to get married, it'd be easier and faster to wait till your 18th birthday than it would be to go the legal route.
Right.
So in this case, we'd have to be talking about a 16-year-old that's going to give birth at 17 or wants to get married at 17, is they have to make the commitment at 16 to get all the way through the class, the 12 months, the marriage license, and then actually get to tie the knot. And as we all know, people who marry that young live happily ever after.
A few of them do, but most of them don't.
My parents got married young, and they've been married well over 50 years.
I have a cousin actually who, like, your scenario is exactly what happened. He was 18 and had just joined the Air Force and was shipping out to Japan. She was 16, fixing to turn 17. Parents signed off on it. They married. They've been married for like 25 years now. He's a lawyer in Florida. Like, he's the kind of lawyer in Florida that, like, people go to when they want life in prison instead of the death penalty. Like, he's like that kind of criminal lawyer. And they just had their first child about the same time that Ava was born.
Well, it just comes down to the fact that the state should not be dictating this. Like, and this is going to sound terrible to say, but it's true. Like, children, I mean, if a parent wants to allow a child, they can drop out of school, you know, they can do all these other things at 16. And if a parent wants to allow them to get married and mess up their life or not, that's their decision as a family. Like, they don't need the state saying this is when you can make that decision and this is when you cannot. And the fact that only 13 people voted against this, like, it frightens me. And the names are they're all Republicans. I think it was Kevin Cook, Colton Moore, Matt Gertler, Joseph Gullett. Or no, I'm sorry, not Joseph. Scratch that. Holmes, Petrie, Alan Powell, Jimmy Pruitt, Ken Poland, Jason Ridley, Ed Setzler, Steve Tarvin, and Scott Turner. That's it.
The usual suspects.
And Emery Donahue. Yes, the usual suspects.
I was impressed. I heard Gullett. I was like, Ben.
Right? I was like, yay.
Wrong.
You made my evening.
Yes, no. But, you know, and I guarantee you that all of those, like, had different reasons for doing it. But to me, it doesn't matter because there's a number of limited government aspects here. Like, it's not the fact that you're charging a fee. It's that you're making parental decisions on behalf of these parents. It's that you're further regulating, that you want education, that you want to be in charge with what they learn. You know, there's so many things here. So I don't really care why they voted no. I'm just glad they did.
You know, and I know we got stuck on the pregnancy thing, but I have a hard time imagining a reason that two 17-year-olds would get married other than pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than that, I mean, is there any good reason not to wait till 18? Other than the scenario with the joining the military is she's 17, he's 18, he's going to ship out, but in order to get her the benefits, the TRICARE and everything else, let's just go ahead and get married.
Right.
Which is the worst reason ever to get married is to share your BAQ.
Right.
Would you accept my PX card? Yeah, I mean, that's the worst reason in the world. However, it's their reasoning. And that's... Or 18-year-old's about to deploy. He's going to go to Iraq and wants to make sure that she's taken care of while he's gone. Let's just go ahead and get married before I deploy. It doesn't matter how old. She's 17 months or 17 years and 11 months. And he's about to deploy. Well, they can't because they need 12 months after completing a parenting class.
You know why this law isn't even consistent and what argument they could have made but didn't because they're too dumb to do it? They could have just said that the age needs to be 18 because in the state of Georgia, you have to be 18 to enter into a legal contract, and marriage is a contract. And instead of doing that, they made it 17 and have nothing to show for it except more regulation. There's plenty of states that have made it 18 just across the board. You've got no other information. And then there's states that you still have to have parental consent if you're under 21 or 19, depending on the state. I mean, there's stupid stuff. But, like, they can't even think. They don't even have logic behind what they're doing. They just do it and say this is why it has to be this way and this is how it's going to be.
Right. Now, the people are just going to go to another state.
No, they won't, because you cannot cross state lines with a minor for, what is it, lascivious purposes?
But in Alabama, you can get married at 14.
Yeah, but you can't take them. If you're 18, you can't take a minor to Alabama with you.
No, but their parents go.
Yeah, can your mom drive you?
I reckon. Yeah.
Hey, can your mom drive us to get married this weekend?
Because I don't have my driver's license yet. Because car insurance is expensive.
Unless you join the Army, then you get car insurance rates if you're 25.
Right.
We are horrible people to be laughing about this like this.
You have to. If you don't, you'll cry.
It's true.
Look, we've covered this on the marriage stuff before, and I don't know if it was last week or week before, as we were talking about, it's not the proper role of government to validate the relationships between people.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't think it should be a federal issue by any means, but it is just crazy how much it varies on a state by state. Like I was talking about Alabama, you can be 14, but like in Arkansas and Georgia, kind of like
14. What's the? Hold on. All right, look. So how old what can the age discrepancy be?
It doesn't say. I mean, I would imagine it needs to fall in line with the rape laws.
Because look, let me tell you, if you're 40 and I see you with a 14-year-old, I'm punching you in the face. That's just all that.
Yeah. I don't think that just gives you
She's
the right
my
to
wife.
Yeah.
Get back to the trailer, Cletus.
But like the states, and like I said, Georgia, the language of the law talks about that one person cannot be, you can't be 17 more than 4 years older than the 17-year-old. But in the committees and in the rules hearings, they talked about girls because this is about girls, not about guys. And you look at like Arkansas's law, and their law is different. You can get married without a court order if you're 17 and you're a guy, but you can get married at 16 if you're a girl. Like it's not consistent because I guess that would be an example of, I mean, you don't have a right to get married, but
evidently you do. The Supreme Court decided that you do.
Right.
Well, if you, Matt, and I want to go, paint your wagon, which I know is something else you haven't seen, and all three of us get married together, the government really has no place deciding whether that's legal or not. And that's next. Which is fine with me. I don't care. It's a private contract. Matt, I'm guessing the 14-year-old thing in Arkansas, probably Alabama probably goes back to the Civil War. After Civil War, when the VA was established, essentially when there was a retirement handed out to veterans of the Civil War, it would go to their spouses. And you saw these 80-year-old men marrying these young teenage girls because they would get their retirement for the rest of, the girl's natural life.
Right.
So I would imagine it dates back to that. I mean, I don't know doo-doo from Shinola, but that would be my guess, especially being the South. I can't remember what rock star. It used to be age of consent would change based on getting permission from the girl's parents. And there was somebody, I don't know if it was Gene Simmons or whoever it was, that would go and meet the parents and get permission. Which, that's a real, I mean, I don't have kids, but I imagine that's a pretty good way to get your ass kicked and thrown out of my house.
Right.
I mean, I have notional kids to defend, but even I'm offended by that.
Well, I looked it up. Age of consent in Alabama is 16. So
a 14-year-old can marry a 16-year-old.
Right.
With parental consent on both sides.
Right.
Holy trailer park.
Right.
I mean, I feel like at some point, I would like to think that the parents would be like, you know what? You guys don't have to get married. your 16-year-old boyfriend can just visit or move in, and
shack up something.
Yeah, you don't have to get married at 14. Like, there are options. You have options.
Not in the Bible Belt.
She's the queen of my double wide trailer.
There's a reason that we make fun of Alabama. This is it.
It's like Florida with fewer beaches. Moving on, because we've exceeded our time on that subject.
I need a buzzer.
You do. You'd get...
So I can just be like mid-sentence. Next.
No, get you one of those hotel clerk bells. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Private property rights versus local control. There is a bill in the Georgia legislature right now that would... Jessica, explain this in a intelligent way that I can't quite formulate.
Okay, so this bill has to do with local ordinances and how they regulate aesthetics, like roof styles, window choices, types of building materials like brick, stucco, vinyl, and the foundations. It's aesthetics. And so what it would do is the state would, if this law passed, it would prohibit local governments from crafting, passing, and enforcing any local ordinance that has to do with aesthetics, colors, paint colors, anything like that. They would not be able to do that. They could still, of course, do anything that had to do with safety or zoning or building codes or anything like that. But anything that has to do with appearance or style or material would be prohibited for the local governments to impose.
Man, on the surface of that, I might be okay with that.
So I found the bill, and then it got assigned to the House Agriculture Committee, which is very odd, but whatever. I think it did because the co-sponsor is the chair of the Agriculture Committee, so that kind of like sent it along. The sponsor of the bill is Vance Smith, who replaced Peasold. So I'll give him credit for this, but his voting record is shit. But Vance Smith is on the bill with Tom McCall, who's chair of the Agriculture Committee, which would push this along. So anyway, these home builders associations have come and asked the state to step in because local governments are out of control. Like Bryan County is currently getting sued because Bryan County is home to Fort Stewart. Part of it is in Bryan County. And a lot of the military housing has vinyl siding. Well, the county has said no houses can be built with vinyl siding anymore, which drives up the cost of the homes and the cost to build and the materials and everything. And it's forcing people to not be able to buy. And so the home builders are having problems. And it's just this big thing. And the locals say that it's a local control issue, which it is. But the locals, in my opinion, should not be doing it. And to your point, like at the surface, when I first read it, I was like, I don't know if the state should usurp the local control. But as I watched it unfold and the more I listened and the more I thought about it, like if it's... And you know what really sent me over the edge was listening to the opponents talk about it because it's all about control. Like literally... They think they have a right to control what color you paint your house, and that's infuriating to me.
So, all right, so Dave knows this because he and I have been talking about, obviously, you and I haven't had a chance to talk much over the last couple of weeks, but we are, like, we're in the design process of building a house, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to buy property and build. And I called... In Bartow County, I called the building commission up there and just inquired, made a couple of inquiries. And one of the things there was they had a vinyl siding thing, which didn't affect me anyway, but they had a roof pitch ordinance. The pitch of the roof had to be a minimum of 512.
Now... what is that? I mean, is that a style thing or is that a safety thing or what is that? I don't know.
That does nothing.
Okay, so that would be prohibited under this law.
Right.
Well, let's discuss what this bill does not do.
Yeah, it does only apply to 1 and 2 single-family homes.
Well, it also does not apply to density.
Right.
Size. So it does not limit. It doesn't tell you a county that they can't build. The county can still say, we don't want 2-bedroom duplexes. The county can still say, we don't want mobile homes. The county can still say, you're not going to build on any lot less than 1 acre in this area. So it does not, all the stuff that I've heard the opponents say, the bill expressly does not cover.
Right.
As an HVAC contractor, I love this bill. And I'll tell you why. It applies the universal codes to all the trades. Mm-hmm. And Matt, you know this from what you do. If I do a job in city of Atlanta, we have to discuss before we start, doing the stuff in Atlanta specific codes. Atlanta requires a clear PVC clean out, and that's only an Atlanta thing. If you do things in DeKalb County, you have to put, we use flexible ductwork in some of the buildings and stuff. You have to put metal under the straps. Just in DeKalb, because apparently just in DeKalb our vinyl straps a problem without having metal on them. So when you have a universal code, just for ease, means as within the state of Georgia, if I'm sending someone to Decatur or Duluth, the code's the same.
Right.
Stylesboro, Statesboro, the code's the same.
Well, there were a lot of council people who commented on the article that I wrote about it saying, well, what about how hard we've worked to improve property values and preserve property values? And I think some of them were actually arguing that by the city or county doing nothing, they're allowing, if I paint my house purple, the county would be allowing my next door neighbor's property value to go down. And my response to that was, then buy a bigger property where you don't see your neighbors.
Right.
So it doesn't affect your property value. The government has no role to preserve or increase property values, and the fact that people can't see that the government has a vested interest and will benefit from increased property values by way of more taxes, of course they want. Yes, you want your property to be worth more than you bought it for, but so does the government because you're going to pay more money.
Right.
And
why are we ignoring this fact?
And Matt sees this once a month with being the zoning czar in Paulding County. Is owner XYZ wants to put up this structure on this plot. And people come out of the woodwork. And Matt, what's the best excuse I heard for trying to block somebody from building something is, my kids camp on that property.
Right. Well, buy it.
Right. And that's the thing is, and Matt's great in these zoning meetings because, a lot of times they'll purposely not go to him because they know exactly what he's going to say, which is, who owns it? Okay. Approved.
Well, and that's what, all these chairmen were in the rules committee blasting Vance Smith. Jay Powell was like, does the property owner next door to you not have any rights? And Vance was like, yeah, they do on their own property.
Right.
And then
those rights end right at that freaking property line.
And then Alan Powell, he's supporting it. But then Chuck Martin was like, so Barry Fleming, who is chairman, I think, of Judiciary, made a comment that, we've, by way of the Constitution and the state constitution, have allocated the powers to zone and do all these things with local governments. And we've given them the authority to do this. And that it violate the Constitution. But my thing is, well, then maybe a landowner needs to take it all the way up to the Georgia Supreme Court to have that thrown out, because my property is my property. And so at the end of the committee hearing, after all these people had blasted him, or I'm sorry, rules committee, like, he said it plainly, and it's like what you just said. He was like, this comes down to who's paying property taxes on the property. Like, if you're going to impose property taxes, then you need to let people make the individual choices about their property.
Right.
And of course it didn't pass out of rules, and my understanding is that the bill is dead. Because of course it is, because it does something to help people and strengthen property rights. Why would we pass something like that?
And the thing is, I don't think it's the huge champion for property rights. Again, it doesn't allow you to take your 30 acres and subdivide it into 90 houses. That's still a county issue.
Right. No, man, this is, Vance decided he wanted to build a house somewhere, and this was the design that he wanted, and the county said, no, you got to have this style roof, and you can't use vinyl there, and it's got to be this pitch. And he was like, what the hell? This is my 50 acres. I'm going to do with it what I want. And they went, no, you're not.
Well, here's the thing is, and as you know, Matt and I live in Paulding County, and we have our own challenges. One of which is we have an inspector that goes by the moniker Turn Down Turner. Is we have so many Paulding specific codes, and he's proud of it. He's proud of being turned down. That's his goal in life is to tell property owners what they can and can't do. He's also known to go sneaking around somebody's property and look in windows to see if you finished off your own basement, Matthew.
Right?
Well, and one of the guys who was testifying was like, I'm a home builder and I build hundreds of homes a year, and whether or not I can build the home to the standards that my customers want depends on some guy sitting in an office with an English degree. And he's right. Like, they don't, it's just arbitrary.
Sure it is. And it comes down to things like what part of the overlay are you in. So if you take your county map and you lay it in front of you, they'll have boxes drawn in certain areas. Where in the overlay does this piece of property? Now, it's worth being said, when I said things it does not cover, this does not apply to historic homes. This does not apply to historic districts. So those in Savannah don't think that someone can go and buy one of the rainbow houses down there and just paint it some god-awful color puke green. That does not apply to that. Not that from a freedom standpoint, you shouldn't have the right to do whatever you want with your property, but it does not apply to historic areas. This is literally, I want to build a neighborhood and I want round windows versus square. And the county comes back, no, all the windows facing the street must be square.
I agree that it's not like a champion of property rights, but I think it is a huge deal, and I think it speaks to our lawmakers as a whole that, because, this was even better. I loved this. So a lot of times a bill comes before rules twice before it just doesn't come up again. So it came up on Wednesday and it came up again on Thursday. And on Thursday, I was watching it on the live stream and I about rolled out of my chair. I'm not going to name names because I actually like the guy, so I'll be nice. But he was like, what makes you think that us in Atlanta sitting up here know what's best for some guy 200 miles away, like that those local leaders aren't best suited to make decisions for these people? And I'm like, that's literally how you make every other rule that you pass, is sitting in a building in Atlanta 200 miles from any given point, telling them that you know better than everyone else. That is what you do. But here, because you don't like it, and because you used to be a mayor, you want it to go away.
I thought you were going to say you used to be a man.
You used to be a man.
The only issue that I have with it, and this is from the mechanical side because that's what I do for a living, the requirements for being near the coast are much different from being inland. So if you're again, down near Savannah, where you have the possibility of floods, they could have a local code saying, and again, private property, you should be able to make your own bad decisions, that your outdoor air conditioner needs to be at least 3 feet off the ground to allow for flooding. Or, more importantly, must be bolted down to the structure so it does not become a projectile should a hurricane come in. It's called hurricane strapping. And in Florida, that's a thing. When you put units, especially on rooftops and things,
right,
is you have to put hurricane straps on them. But
so, do you not think that insurance companies might pick up the slack on something like that? Because, and I understand that what you're talking about is a little bit lighter, but like with regard to the vinyl that I was talking about in Bryan County, where we've had hurricanes, it's right next door to me. The insurance companies have started saying like it has to be a certain quality and it has to, after a certain year, like if you renovate it has to, like the insurance companies have kind of said, we're not going to insure you unless you do X, Y, and Z.
Well, when things become projectiles, it's not my house is the problem. It's the things coming off my house hitting your house.
Right.
And of course, that's a civil matter too, is you sue me and you sue my insurance company saying, hey, the siding came off your house, came over to mine, broke my living room window.
What? Well, see, though, I don't know, man, because, and this is in response to Jessica, I don't know that you would see an insurance company lobby for, like, more quality materials like that. Because if it goes down, they got to pay out way more.
I'm not saying they would lobby for it. I'm just saying that there have been several instances where an insurance company, I mean, my house was built in the 40s and any improvements that I make have to be like of a certain standard. And
oh, yeah. You probably have that ordinance of law thing on yours too. But I run into that some with the age of my house.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying it's the solution 100%, but I think that I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. Is there are some systems that you're going to have to upgrade if you start mucking around with it all.
Yeah, and again, this does not apply to HOAs.
Right.
This is not if you enter into a private contract in a neighborhood, right. Private contract. Your HOA contract is something totally different.
And those things are freaking ironclad, man.
Look, everybody loves the HOA when their neighbor paints their house and hates the HOA when they want to paint their own house.
Mm-hmm.
Same people that gripe and lose their minds when they want to do something to their house. The first ones calling the architectural committee as soon as they see a neighbor swinging a hammer on their deck.
Right.
I'm glad I don't have one, and I probably will never live in a HOA community again until I'm old enough to go move into a 55 plus. And from the commercials, they look really fun. But a callback is something that I thought about when you said insurance companies is. Yeah. Insurance companies are probably behind our first story, the distracted driving. Is get those points up and get those fees up.
Right.
Get those points up.
Okay, because I was remiss. These have been our thoughts and not necessarily those of All on Georgia. If you like what you hear, go to your favorite podcast platform that you're listening to us right now. And give us all the stars all the way to the right. If it's 4 is the max, give us 4. 5 is the max, give us 5. If you don't like what you heard, lie. It doesn't cost you anything. Closing thoughts. Public lands.
Yeah. As Senate Bill 47 passed the House, so all that it needs now is a giant signature from Trump. That's that. It's a big conservation bill. Funding thing, the LWCF, all of that was in there. So, yay.
Jessica?
Call your legislators. Call your legislators.
Sorry, I messed up your poll.
Which poll was it?
Yeah, I had a poll about asking whether people thought... You voted in it, Matt.
I did.
I asked people if they thought that their lawmakers care. Not if they act on it, if they care when they contact them about supporting or opposing a bill. And Dave's like, oh, I'm going to chime in here when I just had a beer with like half the lawmakers in their 25-mile radius. Skewing my scientific poll.
Your scientific poll. Wow.
Yes, my Facebook poll. Leave me alone.
You know what the answer to that is? And like the real answer to that is do they care what any one individual thinks? No. If they get a call from 50 individuals and they're all saying the same thing, yes.
No. Your contribution to their campaign is directly related to how much they care about your opinion.
No, that's what I said. As an individual, no. They don't.
We are less than a month away from opening day. And as this podcast drops, we are less than a month away from Sign Die.
Opening day of what?
Baseball.
Oh. Man, my opening day is in September. What are you talking about? Like, a month? Unless you count, turkey season. That's less than a month away.
It still seems crazy to me that it's not in October. So you can have it for Thanksgiving.
Well, you want to know why?
I'm sure it has something to do with breeding.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with breeding. It has to do with the fact that Georgia genetically will never be a destination state for deer hunting. But we do have a really good wild turkey population, and we are a destination state for turkey hunting. And if they moved to a fall season that coincided with deer season, you would have a lot of opportunistic turkey hunters, and they would decimate the turkey population.
I was just talking about eating turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I know.
All right, thanks for listening. For Matt Lowe, Jessica Szilagyi, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Later.
Bye.